Am I supposed to be
Yeah.
here or there or in a microphone or a worshiper or what's my role? What's up, everybody? This is the Worshipleader podcast. I'm Terry.
And this is Josh.
And today, another exciting episode. We will be talking about finding your role on a worship team. How do you find your role on a worship team? I know that I've been a part of a few different worship teams in my life, and it's always a task, I guess, to find your role, find where you fit in. You ever have any problems like that?
Honestly, yeah. Especially like when you're like in a new space or on a new team, or the team just like drastically changed and you have a bunch of new people. And so then it's just kind of like, it's not really like one of those things that's ever really like openly said or talked about, but it's like there's that underlying question of just like, okay, so who does what kind of?
Yeah. Where do I fit? Like, am I supposed to be here or there or in a microphone or a worshiper or what's my role? And I think you can have. There's a couple of different things that factors that come into this. Like, some people have really great like leaders, and they push you into a role. They're good at developing. They're good at pushing you into a role. And at places like that, which our home church is a place like that, we always have great leaders. We always have people that have a good eye for where your role is. And that's one situation. And then there's another situation to where if the leadership is not that good and you're kind of trying to find your own way without much leadership. So I guess we'll touch on both of them a little bit today. I would say, and interject any time, but I would say that I've found my role personally every time I've needed to find a role. I've done it by just staying consistent in doing what I've been doing at that time. Yeah. So I'll just use this as an example. I do some singing out sometimes with Charity Gale, and there's another group I do some singing out with, and one of the ways, I guess I'll say this, we were at a Q&A one time with Charity, and it was kind of like a panel, and they asked, how do you find your. They were asking Charity, how did you get here, pretty much, and she told her story, and then I kind of interjected, and I was saying, for me, I'm the regular person here, just a regular job and all that. Just go to the church. I'm a worship leader at my church, not in the music industry or anything like that. I was saying, I found my place there by just being consistent at my church. I sing when I'm asked, as much as I possibly can. I try to be as faithful as possible and consistent as possible. And we had a concert where Charity was the guest, and I was asked to be on that worship team for that. And and in that, I kind of just was myself. The things that I've learned and that I've learned over time in my worship ministry, I was just consistent in doing that there, and it translated into me being asked to do a recording and then travel on the road. So I guess me finding my role there was me being consistent throughout all of my worship ministry. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, it's okay. No. I was, because I think that's that's really what it boils down to, at least for me, because it's just like you can't. So I know, like, free choice and all this other
Yeah.
stuff. So like, yeah, you can walk into a place and proceed to try to be like whatever, like I'm gonna do this and this is my role and da 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 da, and congrats to you, Napoleon. But like normally people aren't going to take well to that, because at the end of the day, like, the first question is, who are you? Two, like, second question, what are you doing? Because the thing is, it's just like with that consistency, one, the consistency builds the skills, it builds comfortability, it builds confidence, because you learn how to get confident in a range of different, worship spaces.
Right. Yeah.
But then also too, it builds trust with your leadership and with your with the other team members that you're going to be serving with, because the thing is, people are going to be more comfortable dealing with and putting responsibility in the hands of someone that they truly know is capable of handling it.
Yeah.
Like, there's
good.
just some things that people aren't going to just like hand over to somebody that they just met 5 minutes ago. Like, honestly, even with leading a song, even if they've heard, like, I know we're in the age where we have the clips and the reels and all this other junk or whatever, but I mean, like, yeah, like, there was a good clip and there was a good reel, but 9 times out of 10 people are going to always revert back to the voices that they know, because they know what they're going to get.
Right.
And so, like, if you're inconsistent and you're unfaithful to your ministry, you can't really expect somebody to, like, make a space for you and try to put you in it, because at the end of the day, like, even if they do that, they don't even know if you're going to show up.
Right. Yeah.
And if you show up, they don't know what they're going to get. So
Exactly. And while you were talking, I just thought about this. Like, another point you were saying with the consistency and trust and stuff. Another thing is that consistency will allow the leaders to see what you are and what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, so that you could be placed in a place. If you're asked once a month and you only show up every 3 or 4 months, then, or if you're asked once a week and you only show up every 3 or 4 weeks, it's kind of hard for leaders to gauge strengths and weaknesses and where you're placed, your role. It's kind of harder for them to do it when there's that inconsistency.
Yeah, and also it's one of those things where it's like, you got to understand that, like, you're not the only one that's gifted on that team. And so it's just like, just because you're gifted in one particular area does not mean that necessarily guarantees that that's like what you get to do. Because it's just like, for example, let's say you're really good administratively and you know how to run a team and you know how to lead a team. But the thing is, like, for example, like, if you're at your local church and you're doing like Sunday to Sunday, then yeah, you're probably will be asked to be in more of like a leadership role on that level. But like, let's say it's like one of those, I'm trying to use more general terms, but things like a camp meeting, or, like a conference or a big event or something like that, or like a concert where there's multiple things involved. Now, you also are going to have to be aware of whether or not your leadership skills are necessarily needed in that particular area, because they're probably on a team of other leaders.
Right.
And so, like, if you try to walk in with this, I'm the head honcho attitude, you could unintentionally end up creating a conflict on a worship team that's avoidable. By just being like unaware that, like, you ain't the only one, boo. Like,
right.
Be like, why are they selling out at my church every Sunday? Well, congratulations, so do I. Like,
exactly.
Like, it's like it's one of those things, like, you just have to you have to read the room. Like, read the room, and like understand, like, okay, so who's actually in charge here, and then kind of gauge, like, okay, this in particular person's in charge. What can I bring to the table as far as just like what's missing on the team? What can I do? And sometimes that comes in the form of just holding down the part. It seems really unimportant, but it is very important. And
Very
if you don't
important.
think if you don't think it's not important, go watch a few church lives and you'll see how important it is. Like,
Go to church milk. You'll find out.
yeah, they on
Real
there.
quick. It's important. It's important to hold that down.
It's like, like it's the consistency. It's bringing everything to the table and just being aware that it's not just you on the team. You know?
and to kind of add on to that point, one of the things, like, you could be full of the Spirit as you want to be, but if the attitude's not right and you're not somebody that's easy to work with, then, like in those situations that you were talking about with the conferences and the camps and the special events, then that kind of becomes, you become that person, like they love God, but don't put them in a group of people.
and
don't
all
put them
honesty,
in a group of people.
That in and of itself will close some doors
Yes.
on you too. And even though, like, you might be supposed to be in a place, that was grammatically whatever, that was all over the place. But there may be some things that you are very capable of doing, but if your attitude is not right, people are not going to want to deal with you. Because in all honesty, I would rather take the person that can barely do a run but has a good attitude over the person that is technically amazing, but I literally cannot get through a worship set, practice without them always complaining. In all honesty, I don't have time for it. I don't.
Right.
Don't ask me to do it because I don't want to. Because the thing is, like, you won't get anywhere. They're going to bring down morale. They're going to be super negative, and everybody's going to be in a bad mood because they're having to deal with this person.
Yeah, right.
And that's not me trying to, like, I'm not trying to be like whatever, but at the end of the day, like, your attitude and your character does matter.
Yeah, it does. very, very much so. It matters. It matters a lot, and in like. Just finding that role. And I guess maybe let's transition to more of a place where maybe the leadership is not as strong. And how do we go about finding our place there? I guess we should backtrack and say, pray. Like, all of this should be done in prayer.
Yes,
that's a
given.
Yeah, that's
Like,
a given. So I just
been
didn't
doing
mention
that.
it. Right, right.
Please do so.
So just make sure you're prayerful about the situation, about finding your role in everything. But I guess when there's a place where the leadership is not as strong, that prayer is always a big. I want to say this prayer is always a big issue. It should never be minimized, and I'm not minimizing it here, but prayer, when you don't have strong leadership, you have to lean more on prayer than when you do have strong leadership, because you have strong leadership, you have people that are aware and that are placing people and things are being done, then they're at the helm, they're guiding this. But if you have like a lack of good leadership, then you're really gonna have to rely on prayer all the time.
Yeah.
Get I'm saying that. But you're gonna have to rely on prayer to be placed in those places, and maybe not the leader. You kind of get what I'm saying?
I think I get what you're saying as far as just like prayer. In those particular situations where you don't feel like you're not necessarily getting like that strong leadership, prayer acts as the buffer because it helps bring some guidance in some areas where there's not any.
Okay, that's what
direction where there's not any.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
so
like I get what you meant.
Everything
like,
I said, what he said.
Well, because it's just like it's one of those things. Like when there's not strong leadership, that normally means that there are some things that's just kind of like up in the air, and everybody's kind of like looking at each other like, so what do we do?
Yeah.
And so then it's just kind of like, well, you need to be prayerful and be in tune and be sensitive to, what God is wanting to do in that moment and the decision that God is wanting to make. And then I guess you could say like instinctually, like you will know what direction you're supposed to go without really having to have like this drawn out, like meeting with the council of elders or whatever. But like, just because there's,
And I'll also say, now this is a situation. Now there's a difference in, you can be assertive and still do it with the right attitude, with the right spirit, with the right intentions. So I guess I would be a little more assertive if I was in a place where the leadership was not as strong. Mm-hmm. You are still under that leadership, and you that leadership still has authority over you. That you still submit to that authority, but I would take a little more initiative and be a little more assertive as to, I guess, hey, should I be here this Sunday or here this Sunday or there that Sunday? If no decisions are being made, then maybe offer up some decisions to be made
instead of barking orders.
Right. instead of barking orders, yeah. And maybe offer up some decisions to be made by the leaders. And maybe if you say, hey, do you want to place me in A, B, or C? They can look at it and be like, yo, you know what? You are good at this. Let me place you in B, or let me place you in C. So I think it's good to be a little more assertive if you're not in if you're in a place where the leadership is not as good.
Yeah. And it's also like there's being assertive and then there's being rude.
Right.
And controlling. Right. There is a difference.
Right.
Because I think some people do things in the name of assertiveness and they are lying on assertive. They are dead lying.
Assertive say, that's not me. What you?
Exactly. I didn't say that. Like, because the thing is, like, so for example, I'll go with what you did. Like, you were using questions to respectfully bring up an area where there was like a lack. And the thing is, like, there's nothing wrong with that, because at that point, like, you're saying like, hey, there's something that needs to be done about this, but I'm still leaving the ball in your court to say yes or no.
Yeah.
As opposed to just making the decision yourself.
Right.
And determining within yourself of just like, this is what's going to happen here and you need to do this. And that, like, and you're overstepping.
Right.
You're crossing a boundary. And now you're putting this leader who might even be struggling, trying to like get a handle on like a new position, or just feeling confident enough to lead, or maybe, like there's some kind of external distraction going on, and it's just been taking a little more of their attention or something like that. And now you just add an unnecessary issue to your leader of the team, and now they're having to choose between like, okay, do I address this and possibly open up a conflict and end up like maybe hurting someone's feelings, or do I not say something but allow this to end up being like a chaotic thing? Because at the end of the day, you're not the leader, and so like it's not about what you're envisioning and what you're wanting to see in place. It's more so about like, what the leaders want to do,
exactly, because the leadership is put there by the pastors, and they are a worship pastor, and they're placed there by God ultimately. So you want to fall under that. You want to fall and submit to the leadership, and just like offer up the suggestions and ask the questions, but don't be assertive to the point of causing conflict, because that it's just not good. It's not good for anybody.
Because it's just like, it's one thing to give options, but it's a whole other thing to just kind of like try to bulldoze your own thinking. Because then people are going to be they're not going to really want to deal with that, especially if like they already have more of like a passive personality. It's just going to be like, no, I'm not. No, like they're cool and all, but just because it's just like nobody wants to fight all the time,
right?
Like,
exactly.
Nobody wants to put up
exactly,
with
and
practices are stressful enough.
I was about to say, like, there's like, unless your worship leader is full time and they're there and that's their job, they have other things on their plate, and that's also a factor. They, like you were saying, do I want to cause this conflict? And you having them thinking, your worship leader thinking, if they even want to do what needs to be done in that moment, and cause a conflict. And I lost my train of thought. It was going somewhere, but it's gone now.
I get what you mean, though, in the sense of just like, it's just adding another thing to the list.
Yeah, it's just adding another
thing to the list.
And
it's just like, why even do that? Why even do that? Because I think also sometimes what happens is we get super fixated on some things, and you also have to, and I have to do this because I'm very type A. I can be very, very nitpicky if I don't watch it. Like if I'm not like paying attention, I can get very, very nitpicky. But like you have to look in the big scheme of things as far as just like, is this something that's worth making a big deal about? Or
Right.
will we survive
Right.
without
Exactly.
it, you know?
Exactly.
Is it really that big a deal?
Right. And with us finding our role on the worship team, I think if we combined all of these things, if we combined from a lack of a leadership standpoint, if we combine the assertiveness with offering them to options, and also if we have a good leadership, if we do the things we need to as far as being consistent and being there and allowing them to see our strengths and weaknesses and placing us in a good place, I think all of these things together can help us find our place, can help us find a good grounding and find our role in the worship team. Yeah.
And also like being willing to admit when you're not comfortable doing something too, because there's some people, I think like there's always this common assumption that like everybody wants to be a soloist, and there are some people that genuinely do not want to be
exactly
one. Like and that's okay.
Exactly. And it's totally okay. I know a lot of people that they do not want. It's, you have nerves and they know, hey, I'm not that person. I'm not that guy. I'm not that girl. I do enjoy worshiping. I do enjoy singing, but I'm not the person to be out front leading. And that's and they're great. They're great worship leaders, even though they don't have a microphone in their hand. So that may be the role. And I also know of some people that are like, I'll use Sister Jennifer as an example. Like she loves to sing, but her number one, like, she is the prayer warrior. She's up there praying. She's up there breaking through strongholds while praise is going forward. While she's singing. Like it.
That's her go-to.
Yeah, that's her go-to. And that may be a role of someone. And when you have good leaders, they recognize that. And I think if you're in the spirit, you kind of know it. You kind of know if that's your role. You
pick up on it. Because also it's like, so it's one of those things where you got to understand that it takes multiple pieces, because like Paul was talking about how it's just like the body's made up of like a lot of different members, and worship teams being a part of the church, it works the same way. It takes a lot of different people. Everybody super emphasizes soloists, but it's just like the soloist can't be a soloist if the team's not being a team.
Exactly.
If the people aren't holding their parts, if there's not people that's worshiping, because the thing is, it's just like well, I won't say that, but I'll just say this. I'll just say this. Everything that you bring to the table is important. Just don't think that, and because I know like in our choir, like they always super emphasize just the fact of just like, hey, even though you may feel like what you're doing isn't doing anything, like there is at least one person in the church that is basically receiving off of what you're giving.
Yeah.
Basically.
And
definitely. So it's
definitely.
just like, you got to remember that like you are bringing something to the table if you're on the team. Like, it's just one of those things. It's just like, it may feel like you're a small piece, but it doesn't mean that you're not doing anything.
Right. Exactly. And I think we should. That's the mindset we should approach finding our role. Like that mindset. That should be the base mindset of finding your role, whatever that role is. And your talent has something to do with it. God given everybody a measure of talent. He's given everybody a measure of faith. He's given everybody a measure of being able to move differently in situations, and that stuff can be developed also. But I think when you combine all of that, it kind of puts us in our role. And you got anything else?
just never be too humble to do what's necessary, honestly.
Good.
Because I've seen, I won't name names, but it's just, I've seen amazing singers who were willing to do things that were not necessarily quote unquote like at their pay grade, I guess you could put. I don't really know a good phrase for
Yeah,
it,
I know.
but like they were willing to do things that most people probably just been like, why are they doing that? But like they did it, and they did it with such a good attitude, and that smoke, and like I don't even think that, like, I don't even think they realize like what kind of effect that has, being able to like see them do that and do it with such a like, with such like, you know, they were all happy and they were just like, "Ooh, this is fun," kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's just keep a good attitude regardless of what you're asked to do on your worship team, whether it be in the choir or, you know, being, you know, whatever, whether you're in a mic or not. It's just one of those things. Just keep a good attitude and it'll be fine, you know.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It will be.
Well, I guess we'll wrap up this episode. We're coming close to the time to close it out. So, like we always say, if you enjoyed it, hit that follow button, subscribe, and share it with others so that we can get this out to others. We try to offer up some good sound advice to everyone with all of our years of knowledge. So if you if you like it, just hit the subscribe, share, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.